What's up, man? Spirit Fingers.
No, episode 4.
4.
Yeah,
You don't like Spirit Fingers?
we're in this thing. I do.
Just check.
Especially when they're at the free throw line.
Yep, that makes you miss.
It works about 30% of the time, I feel like.
Yeah, most of those athletes they living for that moment. So,
I feel like it's from anecdotal evidence. I've not really done the numbers.
yeah.
I don't know if it's very effective.
But you've probably spent time in the yard, like the countdown with playing basketball, and you're like, oh, 5, 4, shoot the shot, you miss, and you're like, oh, 3, 2.
Yeah, for sure.
But this, number 4, is going to be,
Nope.
This is probably the best episode ever.
I'm excited about it.
We're going to talk about divorced dad rock.
Come on.
I know it.
Anytime we talk about music, it's my favorite thing.
Yeah.
So.
In case you didn't know, music is a big deal for us. So it's how we met, right?
Yeah.
It's our origin story.
It is. It's how we connect, on a personal level. It's our love language to each other.
I'm down with that.
Music.
Yeah.
For sure. Yep, that's the origin story from Divorced Dad Rock.
Yeah. So right off the bat, since it's opening day of baseball, right off the bat, are you mad that they've labeled probably most of the music we listen to, and probably some of our, I would say probably more me, my favorite bands.
Right.
I probably like more of that than you do, but does it offend you that they've called it divorced dad rock since, well, one, you're not divorced.
Well, neither are you, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't hear the divorce. The divorced dad rock is new to me.
Mm-hmm.
But dad rock, I knew that the bands of our era were dad rock.
Yeah. And why didn't anybody else get labeled that?
Well, so it's like that genre naming thing that we never liked. But so you go through, if you go Apple's playlist for dad rock, they don't have a divorced dad rock playlist.
Spotify does, I believe.
Do they really?
Yep.
Yeah. Shout out to Spotify. And so the Apple Music not divorced dad rock, but dad rock playlist, it's different than divorced dad rock.
Oh.
Yeah, they're not the same thing. They're like two genres. You can have dad rock, but now there's divorced dad rock.
So what are some of the big dad rock?
So if you go just dad rock,
Mm-hmm.
You'll see bands like Black Keys.
Oh, okay.
Dad rock. The Killers. Wilco. My Morning Jacket. These kind of bands. But you'll also see like Steely Dan, which I call more yacht rock. You're getting into that territory. So you'll see a lot of these bands. Tame Impala, did I say them?
No, you didn't.
Cage the Elephant. Those are dad rock bands. I would put like Blue Stones in there.
Gotcha. And see, Cage the Elephant to me would be more of the divorced.
Oh, you would put them in the...
Well, yeah, because that was more our era.
Yeah. They came later. Though.
Yeah. See, dad rock, I would think of, like AC/DC's got to be on there, right?
No, not dad rock.
Not dad rock.
Not dad rock.
Well, my dad would be offended.
Well, like I said, you see Steely Dan in that, and you see... I think dad rock is more like a... It's got that manly thing to it, but it's also a thinking man's rock.
Oh.
Where if you talk about divorced dad rock, to me, you'll see in these playlists, if you look through them, the older bands that you'll see in the divorced dad rock genre, Metallica, Led Zeppelin, you'll see them, Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
I didn't see AC/DC though.
That surprises me because that's...
I wonder if they're not throwing them in there because a lot of kids like AC/DC.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think from the Iron Man movies, they got nostalgia to it, and then Megamind.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of mainstream. In our day, it wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I know AC/DC was always playing when my dad was working.
Yeah.
Like, just nonstop.
I feel like if you use the term in our day, any rock music that you like is dad rock. Divorced dad rock, I feel like, is more, how do I say it's more Mountain Dew drinkers, Monster Energy, the white one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the best one.
yeah. I don't know how to say this without sounding like just a jerk, but just you know what I mean. Like
Mhm.
they they at one time wore Jinkos,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know, and studded necklaces or
The
might,
spiky hair.
yeah, might have painted your fingers black.
Yeah.
But I think those bands fit into that genre. So to me, Divorce Dad Rock, you're right. A lot of your bands fit into that more
Yeah.
than mine. But Creed is Divorce Dad Rock.
Yeah, I see that era of like when I was looking it up and kind of going through some of the bands. I got a lot of like those late '90, early 2000,
Mhm.
era bands, and some of the bands are still, well, like a lot of the bands are still relevant.
But you didn't see so many grunge bands.
No, I don't. I don't remember seeing any grunge bands that I can remember.
But you will in Dad Rock.
Yeah.
If you just get into like Apple's Dad Rock playlist, I think there was Pearl Jam. Is one I saw. I didn't see any others.
No Nirvana.
No Nirvana.
That surprises me.
No, that surprised me too. So I didn't see a lot of good definition for what makes a band Divorce Dad Rock. Except
Yeah.
for I think you're right in the vein of it.
Yeah.
That's all your favorite bands.
Mhm.
So I saw what I would think would be like Papa Roach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Papa Roach, Seether,
All bands I've seen so far.
Hinder. Five Finger Death Punch to me is like,
Yeah, that's in there.
it's the ultimate.
Yeah.
The ultimate. I think your summer festival bands from like before Louder Than Life.
Even louder than life. Not so much this year, but like the past few years, there was a lot of the Divorce Dad Rock, bands.
I dig it, man. And I dig some of that's actually coming back. Like,
Yeah.
there's a band called Saul. They got a real Divorce Dad Rock feel to them.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you've heard of them.
I haven't. No.
Good band. I have sent you some.
Have you? Then I've heard them.
Yeah.
I just don't remember. You sent me a lot of stuff. To be fair.
Yeah, to be fair, I send Jeremy memes, bands, anything that I think is interesting or funny. All this stuff that the reason we want to do a podcast, just because I think it's slightly entertaining. Like Jeremy like this. But I've got something to say about that, but that'll get us completely off of what our topic is.
Okay, so normally we don't tell each other what we're going to be talking about, and we just kind of go with the flow. But for this one, I thought it was going to be fun to. We call it the Big Four, and I see this on the internet a lot. Like since Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, and Megadeth did the Big Four tour, a lot of people are taking bands like who are the Big Four of like punk music or pop punk or this and that.
Right.
So I was curious to make a Big Four for the Divorce Dad Rock, and then see what you got and see what I got, and see if we matched up, or if we had a big difference in our who we want to see in the Big Four.
Yeah, and I think that I wondered the ones that I picked. Like these are, if you talked about your Big Four, those are the ones that you think they define the genre the most,
Mhm.
and they're the most well known for being.
Yeah.
This is like that's them. They are them. As kids would say, they are them. But do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So
I did the smelling salts first last time, so
yeah. Well, the two automatically in my mind that stick out are Creed and Nickelback.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not a Nickelback fan at all. This has been since Nickelback came out. I was not a Nickelback fan before it was cool to not be a Nickelback fan. They kind of got the Creed treatment where everybody pretended like they weren't Nickelback fans, but every flipping body was a Nickelback fan, and I just did not dig them like at all. But they are Divorce Dad Rock prime.
Yeah.
They're probably number one. They're the Metallica of Divorce Dad Rock.
yeah. And it was hard. I didn't put Metallica in my list of Divorce Dad Rock Big Four, but seeing them there, it was like Yeah, it was kind of hard not to, but they already have
Right.
their big four.
I think that they could fit. They do fit in the dad rock category. If this was just dad rock, I would put them in there.
You could definitely put like Load and Reload in
Load
a dad,
Reload,
in
yeah,
a dad
and the
rock.
garage album,
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
yeah, for sure. But so Creed's number 2, and they would almost be number 1 right now because they're making a big resurgence.
Mm-hmm.
But the attitude that Nickelback has is just it's more divorced than rock.
Yeah.
Than anything. Number 3 for me, you might think, I don't know about if you would put them there or not, but I would probably put Finger 11.
Oh wow, yeah.
Finger 11, and the reason is because now they're not known a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but in that era, they had the up and comer vibe. They were like the Anthrax of
Of the yeah.
of the divorced dad rock. And I know people say, well, I don't know about that. But my last one for divorced dad rock would be number 4, Shinedown.
Okay.
That's what I think. Shinedown takes the prize on that. What was your?
All right, we had 1 or 2 of the same. My number 1's Nickelback, but I did mine more on like, cause I've got something controversial I did with mine. Nickelback made it for me because number 1, because I agree. I think when you think of divorced dad rock, it's Nickelback.
Yeah.
They're the big. And my number 2, or like I said, I did mine on relevancy. Like so, like are they their catalog?
Oh yeah.
So I looked more at that angle of it. So my number 2 that we had in common was Shinedown. So I think Nickelback, Shinedown. Seen them both. Like I said, I've seen most of these bands live. So like Shinedown, we've seen multiple times. They do a fantastic job. Nickelback, we've seen a few times. And then my third one is Korn.
Korn.
Yeah, I put just for the same reason. I think they've kept doing it and have stayed the course for the most part. And then my fourth one is Disturbed. I left Creed out because I didn't. I was gonna put them in there, but then I was like, they only put the 3 albums. Well, was it 4? Did they wind up doing another one, or was it a greatest hits? Creed
They
did it 4. Yeah. So yeah, the 4 albums, and it was kind of like they had that hiatus, and then they came back. So I kind of left them off for that reason, not because I don't think they are. They would probably be a number 5 or number 6 on mine.
Right.
But so I did like I said, the catalog, and then who I've enjoyed the most live.
Yeah. So I didn't think about who I enjoyed the most at all.
Yeah.
In this whole thing, like if I was to put who I enjoyed the most, Creed would definitely still be in there. If you don't know, in case you didn't know,
yeah,
I've seen Creed like 4 times. But if I was putting bands I enjoyed in this category, I would probably put Three Doors Down in.
Yeah, Three Doors Down was a big one on the internet searches. They were like the first ones that came up.
Yeah, I think they would have to be in there if it was bands I enjoyed. I kind of put what I was thinking too about divorced dad rock was bands who have a lot of people who love them and a lot of people who absolutely hate them.
Yeah,
because that's what to me makes it divorced dad rock. Like they're polarizing.
Mm-hmm.
They have a certain maybe a amount of I don't know if we can say this on.
Hello.
Hello.
That's got to be one of our millions of fans calling.
I didn't know we were taking request line. Just hang up on.
See ya.
This is what happens when you're doing things online.
Yeah.
Oh, the phone was ringing.
Oh, yeah. So we were just informed that you all probably didn't hear the phone ring, so you probably don't know what's going on.
Yeah. But I think I don't know if you can say this on our podcast or not, but to be divorced dad rock, you have to have a certain amount of douchery about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're kind of a Chad in some ways. And so that's why I picked the ones who I picked, too.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Shinedown,
I will say this: Shinedown almost got my number 1 spot, and because when we've seen them live, probably 4 to 5 times, and they always seem like they just enjoy playing music together, and it always makes for a great show because they have a chemistry about the four guys in the band have a really good chemistry about them, and when you're seeing that live, it adds another element to the live experience.
Yeah, I've not seen them. That's a band I've not seen live.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just like you can tell like they enjoy what they do.
Could you put a Christian band in the divorced dad rock category?
Skillet,
I was gonna say Skillet.
Skillet or Red, they seem to make the Skillet and Red always make like a festival, a rock festival somewhere. Like we saw Skillet and Red both last year at Louder Than Life. We saw Finger 11 last year at Louder Than Life. Yeah, so
311 would go in.
yeah, 311's good.
They could be polarizing too. I would put them more in a straight dad rock category. Actually, I wonder if Creed would go there too, but except for it's just I think it's something about being so easily accessible also.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're not I don't want to offend anybody, but they're not a thinking man's band. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're like
They're not Dream Theater or
they're not
Rush.
Dream Theater, and that's why I
Yeah.
didn't put Korn in there. Because
Yeah.
I think Korn is a little bit more thought out, intricate, you know.
Yeah.
You might not think that was Korn, but if you their parts are and they were a different thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Korn could easily make like a if you did a big four of like the new metal, they could be
Absolutely.
on that list for sure. And that's one of the reasons I put them in my big four of the Divorced Dad Rock was I felt like they defined, new metal.
Yeah.
It was them and Limp Bizkit and Limp Bizkit would probably be a great Divorced Dad Rock.
Divorced dad rock, yeah. But they do fit in that new metal category.
Yeah.
That's like Metallica being
Hmm.
they would be divorced dad rock.
Yeah, and like I said, you could put Metallica in the thrash big four.
Yeah.
Probably hard rock big four, and maybe even if you did a big four of the best cover albums too, because like you said, Garage Inc.
Right.
You know,
Well, and I think you go into like when I first found out about dad rock, I'm like, what the heck is dad rock? Well, then I started listening to the playlist and loved it all. So wasn't my normal things. Like I like Wilco, but they're not my favorite. I couldn't name 5 songs of Wilco. I like them though. It's like, remember that band Or from back in the day?
Yeah, yeah.
OAR or
Mhm.
whatever. I couldn't tell you 5 songs from them. I just remember they were a good band. Sister Hazel, I fit in that same category. But so I listened through the playlist and I was like, oh, these are all. I could listen to this. It's not great, but I think Divorced Dad Rock is more our kind of thing.
yeah. Like I said, going through the list, it's like these are all guys that are bands that I've seen. Like I said, at festivals live, and have grew up and listened to multiple albums from them. And that was another reason for Korn too, because like Korn kind of put me back in. That was
Yeah.
high school.
And and I think that's why a lot of the grunge bands aren't in there because it's kind of post-grunge
Mhm.
bands that makes it dad rock era. Grunge is, I think, again, its own thing. But let me take this another direction. If we're not done talking about music, because I will do the whole podcast talking about bands.
I was expecting to do the whole podcast about music.
So if you're not into music, this isn't your one. You can just whatever. But I do have one surprise that it still ties into music in a weird way, but you'll see. If we're talking about dad rock or divorced dad rock, what would be your dad's divorced dad rock list?
Oh, that's the easiest question ever. My dad's big four of dad rock would be AC/DC, 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 and maybe Leonard Skinner.
Oh yeah,
Just to throw a little curveball there.
right.
My dad was more outlaw country.
Yeah.
But he loved AC/DC. So when we weren't listening to George Jones or Waylon Jennings or Johnny Cash or Willie Nelson,
Right.
it was always AC/DC. Like I had all the AC/DC albums, and I'm not really a huge AC/DC fan, but I had all the CDs.
Yeah.
Because he would want, go grab your AC/DC, CDs. We're gonna do some drywall.
So my dad wasn't into rock at all, really. He liked the Eagles, maybe some
Mhm.
songs, but he's not really into music much at all. So his rock and roll would probably be like Hank Senior.
Gotcha.
That kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
he liked Hank Senior, Hank Junior. Probably couldn't get him to hear Hank the Third.
No, no.
That kind of thing. David Allan Coe probably was sitting there too. But if I think of like what I would consider to be divorced dad rock, I would put in like Led Zeppelin,
Yeah.
Pink Floyd, Aerosmith. Who would be there? That kind of lines up me Black Sabbath.
I was going to say you either have to go the Black Sabbath or AC/DC route
Yeah.
if you're doing.
I can see AC/DC, but I'm just talking about your favorite.
Yeah, yeah.
So those Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, they're I think ubiquitous for the older generation for us.
Oh, hair metal. Well, right off the bat for hair metal, you've got to put Motley Crue.
Yeah, I would not put Motley Crue. They'd be divorced that right.
You
Hair
think?
metal.
The hair
Yeah.
metal scene?
Well, Motley Crue, I think would be in that. For hair metal though, Motley Crue I guess would fit in there. But I don't think of them like I think of like Poison, Rat, Scorpions maybe, or Bon Jovi. They're more
Yeah.
your pop hair metal, I would think.
Yeah.
So I think of two different ways. I would put Motley Crue more with your Skid Row type bands, a little bit harder edge.
Yeah, that late 80s going into the early 90s.
Yeah, and Whitesnake. Yeah, something like that. They're not quite metal, but on the verge of being metal.
What about like Rat
Yeah, I can see Rat in there.
or Warrant?
Yeah, Warrant for sure. Rat is almost on that edge of
Same thing.
yeah. They would fit more with Motley Crue and them. And then you have the bands that are like '80s bands, but they were more rock and roll.
Mhm.
Like I would put like Guns N' Roses more in their own category, not really in the
Yeah.
in the hair
Well,
metal.
they had what throws you off is they have the hair metal look, but the music's not
right.
hair metal. Or I wouldn't consider it hair metal.
I wouldn't either. Yeah. They kind of had their own style too.
And it was probably more Axl Rose had that look, and maybe Duff, the bass player. Like,
Yeah.
So,
Nobody had Slash's look.
Yeah.
It's his own thing.
so yeah, maybe it was Slash that kind of yeah. I mean,
So even with the big four that started it all, Metallica, I don't agree with the big four lineup there.
really, who would you?
No, this is going to be a hot take.
Oh man,
For some people, Slayer doesn't belong in that list.
yeah, you would die. And they're right.
Look, I understand why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
They're not. Exodus belongs there more than Slayer.
Okay.
If you're asking me.
Yeah.
And if you got Anthrax, Megadeth, Metallica, and Slayer. I just don't think Slayer fits with that group.
Yeah.
I think Testament fits better.
Yeah.
Than Slayer. I think-
Testament kind of sounds like Metallica vocally though, don't they?
Yeah. Well, so does Megadeth doesn't sound like Metallica vocally, but
Well, I mean, yeah,
with the crunch, they've got that.
there's
similar-
definitely they did work together at one point for a minute.
See, I would put Slayer in kind of its own category with Sepultura,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's where you would get Pantera. You would put them right there. So Slayer, Pantera, Sepultura. I don't know who the fourth one of that group might be. Because I think they're a little bit darker than your thrash big four was. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Your Pantera's got it's a harder edge.
Yeah.
It's closer to the screaming metal type
If
genre to me.
Pantera would have been a little later, if they'd have started in the early '80s, they probably would have been in the
Big four, yeah. But I get it. Rain of Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just know that we when we went to Louder Than Life last year, Friday was Slayer was the headline, and when they canceled because of the rain and all that stuff, dude, just people running through the parking lots, just screaming Slayer, Slayer. So they definitely have. They may have the better fan base out of the big four, like more dead. If you want to, because they're crazy,
crazy.
dedicated.
Yeah, yeah. I could see them being crazier,
Mhm.
but
They probably don't have as many fans.
yeah,
but
not as broad as Metallica.
they're more passionate fans, I guess. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's the right word to say or
Well-
not, but
for Metallica fans, they've been there a lot. I mean, there's only so much.
well, yeah, like I said, you could put just because you could put Metallica in different categories because you could go Kill 'Em All to And Justice for All. That's your thrash, Big Four. That's the band, or that's the probably your older brother would remember that Metallica
Yeah.
and only like that Metallica. And then more along our era of Metallica was the Black Album,
Yeah.
Load, Reload,
Reload.
and then they cut their hair and started dressing a little nicer and
I get it. People had a problem with it.
yeah. So Metallica might be the most controversial out of they're definitely like the Nickelback. You either love a certain era or you hate them.
Yeah, I get that. And well, we like we said, this was our main point of our whole entire friendship. We would sit in a room literally for hours talking about bands, ranking them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Ranking their albums, putting them against other bands. We would sit and talk about labels that put out bands. Like this label put out all these bands. Or Geffen had these artists on its label. Which producers we liked. That's something that's gone, I think. I don't know if it'll ever be back.
Yeah.
Well, especially with labels.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't. Like I said, a lot of people are YouTube, and get famous that way. And you don't really produce a whole album hardly anymore. Some bands still do, but it's more singles and EPs and stuff like that. But
yeah, we loved ranking and talking about music and fitting it into different things.
Yeah. In middle school, I used to record myself doing a countdown show, and I would play the song and then act like I was.
Nice.
Yeah, I threw away all those cassette tapes. Yeah,
That would be gold.
I figured out after doing a few. Once I got into high school, I was like, this could come back to get me. Somebody came across these.
Yeah.
But my countdowns weren't fair either. It was usually a lot of Metallica.
Yeah.
I got made fun of quite a bit for my love of Metallica and Kiss.
Yeah.
And bands like that. So.
Yeah, I remember one time while I was going to Prosser, there was a guy there, and he was like, "What bands do you like?" And I just told him, a few of them, Metallica, and I was in the Creed. I was never ashamed of being a Creed fan, and so even when people were like Creed, I was like, "Yeah, I love them. They're great."
Yeah. Before you go on though, we need to shout out to Creed and tell them that we have been fans from the get-go.
That's right. 4 times seen you guys. I think for every album.
Covered their songs.
Covered the songs, played it live. Yep. Met Mark one time. You probably remember.
Yep, Freedom Hall.
Freedom Hall.
You were playing the ping pong.
Yeah. We didn't have a marker.
And if you do hear this, you have to send me a signed photo because I had a camera in my pocket and forgot to take a picture, and people were upset.
Yeah. Yeah. And my wife has a crush on you. It's kind of weird. Mark Tremonti. Yeah. So I spoke to this guy. I was telling him all these bands I like. And he's like, "You probably like 7 Married 3 too." I was like, "I do like them." It's like he was trying to insult me, I guess. I was like, "I do kind of like them." Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was into. I'm trying to remember the band he was in. He really got big into Drowning Pool later. Dad Rock.
Yeah.
Divorced Dad Rock. Drowning Pool absolutely makes that list. Can't remember who he was also big into Limp Bizkit.
Yeah, yeah.
Which fine, Limp Bizkit back in the day, I listened to them, but I wasn't into them. Like some people were Limp Bizkit fans, and you knew it. Like,
That was me.
yeah. And so I was more into the dad rock part than the divorced dad rock. But what was I going to say with Metallica was, people love to dog them out, but we were Metallica fans like we are Louisville fans.
Yep.
So you're going to pick Metallica over everything, just like both of our brackets suck because we pick Louisville. They pretty much win every year. We know they're not going to.
Yeah.
I pick Louisville for the bracket, even when they don't make the tournament.
Just write them in.
Just like a presidential election. Nobody here I like.
Yeah.
So right in the team I want.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely. There's a special place for Metallica in my heart for sure.
Yeah. And they let you down a little bit with the 72 season.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. But I think it's a great album. I like it. I'm a fan. But I felt that way about St. Anger. It wasn't my
Yeah, see, I say I'm not the 72 Seasons fan, and you're not a St. Anger fan, and I thought St. Anger was brilliant.
And neither one of us liked the production on Death Magnetic.
Yeah, that could have been better.
I think the production on Justice for All is better than the production on Death Magnetic. Like, what happened here? Rick Rubin
I know, that's...
just didn't mix it, guys. I don't know. Maybe they'll remix it.
Yeah. Metallica needed to keep working with Bob Rock.
That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. So. But yeah.
But I'll lead into the next thing. It's still music related. You remember this?
Is that the Jerry Cantrell wallet?
Yeah, so I didn't get Mark Tremonti's signature. I did get Jerry Cantrell's signature. We saw Jerry Cantrell. Well, one time was Jerry, and the other time was...
I think that was just him when we saw him, when you met him.
When I met him. But I think he was with Alice in Chains, or some version of it.
Yeah, I think we saw Jerry. No, it was Alice in Chains when you met him, because we saw him at Freedom Hall. It was just Jerry Cantrell.
Right. And he was opening for Creed.
Yes.
And Seven Dust.
Yep.
Divorced Dad Rock.
You know who else we didn't mention real quick is Linkin Park.
Yeah. But people love Linkin. I mean, girls love Linkin Park.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it makes the list.
It's on, I'm just saying it's divorced. It didn't make my list, but divorced.
Is there
Dad
anybody
Rock.
that doesn't like Linkin Park?
I don't know anybody.
I've never heard anybody go out there. I'll tell you this. When I was doing heat and air conditioning, I was working with a guy, and he told me, like, it was Linkin Park's first album, Hybrid Theory.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, this band is going to be a flash in the pan. You're going to hear him today, you'll never hear from him again. He was wrong.
Yep.
He was so wrong. I was like, no, they're really good. But yeah. So this is the Jerry Cantrell wallet. So this is part of the Everything Jeremy month. This is the last episode for Everything Jeremy month. But the reason I brought it is because of this.
That's the home skate shop sticker, right?
Yeah, home skate shop sticker, original. And on the inside there is Metallica. And this was a guitar with flowers on it. That we're off. And I don't know if you can see, but that's Jerry Cantrell's signature on there from Alice in Chains guitarist. But the reason I brought this was not just because of the wallet, but because of in this wallet, I have kept something for 24 years. 24 years? Maybe 25 years.
That sounds right.
Check that out.
Oh. This is a competition pin. So I got to tell the story, right?
Yeah, I had this in this wallet for it's got to be 24 years, right? We graduated.
This was either 2000 or 2001. That's the 2 years I was in this.
So 24, 25 years.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. So anyways, this is a VICA pin. It's Vocational Industrial Clubs of America. So where we went to school at, there's a technical school called Prosser. And you could go there and learn a skill. Heating and air, right?
Yep,
that's
what I
you.
did. Yep.
You could learn to weld. You could learn to be an electrician, auto body.
Cut hair.
Yeah, cosmetology.
They had computer
programming. Or?
programming, and it was a new thing in 2000.
Yeah.
99, 2000.
This will date us too, but all those kids played Duke Nukem every time I was walk by.
Yeah. And Doom.
Yeah, and Doom. Yeah. So, anyways, whenever I was approached about going to Prosser, go learn a skill, I didn't really want to because at that time we were going to be rock stars.
Of course.
It was going to happen for us. We, like I said, we were awesome.
We were on the path to start.
Yeah. So, to appease everybody, I was like, well, I guess I'll take a class. So, I'd seen this movie, Half Baked, with Dave Chappelle. And his main thing in this movie was he was a custodian.
Or janitor, if you want to be a...
Yeah, if you wanted to be rude about it.
Yeah.
But, so when I went to do the tour of Prosser, I found a building maintenance class that taught you how to buff floors, re-wax, strip and re-wax floors, and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? It would be funny if I took this class. I'm going to learn how to be a custodian. So I signed up for this class, and about halfway through my junior year, my first year in this class, he tells me about this. My teacher tells me about this competition. So Vocational Industrial Clubs of America, you go to a regional competition where you compete on who can strip and re-wax a floor better. And I won a gold medal at regionals, and then I went to state and won a gold medal in state. So after you win the gold medal in state, you get to go to Kansas City, Missouri, and compete national at stripping and re-waxing floors. So my first year, my junior year, I think it was 6th or 7th place. And but when I went back for my senior year, I took home the silver medal. So in 2001, I was the second best custodian in the United States.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And they give you these pins to trade with all the people from the other states. So you would go around collecting, from Texas, Hawaii, Ohio, or whatever. And I don't even remember giving this to you.
Yeah, here's what you said, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I was proud of you for winning the competition. I was like, oh boy, yeah. Oh boy, blue. And so I was really proud of you, and you were like, I was like, what are you gonna do with it? He's like, I'm gonna throw this away. I was like, man, don't throw this away. He's like, do you want it? I was like, yeah. So he gave it to me, and I've had this 24 years now. But now I'd like to give it back to you.
Awesome.
As part of your birthday month.
I will not throw it away then.
Yeah, I didn't figure you would.
I'll hang it up and tell my kids and grandkids about how I was the dominant.
You went nationwide, son.
The guy from Ohio got me.
Mm.
Yeah,
you can't beat Ohio.
Yeah,
it was for stripping and waxing floors.
The guy told me it was close. Yeah. But we got to go up on a podium and everything. There was this whole.
Did you like?
No, I didn't even think about it. I was like I said, I just. What turned into a big joke. Actually, though, helped me later on in life. I was able to use my custodial skills to learn how to weld and eventually get into the railroad and work on locomotives and all that good stuff now. So
yeah. I like to think it made you who you are today.
I think it did.
Yeah. It was experience, probably.
Yeah. But yeah, probably not my finest moment of being like, I'll go learn a skill, and I just picked the first thing I saw from one of the movies I like.
Right. There's one more thing I want to ask you about this. The Big Four. You sent me.
The Christian
Michael Sweet. Sweet.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Sweet, right?
I think it's Sweet.
Yeah. Michael Sweet tweeted out or whatever you call it now. Maybe did it on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Kind of a tease, was it?
Yeah, I think so.
Like he was thinking they're going to do a Big Four of Christian rock, 90s, whatever. Mm-hmm. So, what do you say? Striper?
It was Striper and I know DC Talk was
DC
on
Talk.
there. I can't remember the other two.
Can't remember the other two either. That's probably accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it was anybody I was like, oh yeah.
I think POD was on it.
Oh yeah, POD was on it. It was POD and I can't remember. Maybe it'll come to me later. But.
Yeah. But I was going to ask you, so for Christian influential early rock days, Christian big four. What's your big four?
A big four. I would say it's definitely DC Talk number one.
DC Talk is deserving of the crown, in my opinion.
Yeah. Jesus Freak, we've talked about all the time. Jesus Freak's probably one of the best albums
Absolutely.
ever put out.
Yeah, and I'm not talking Christian album.
Yeah,
I'm talking
yeah.
about
Me neither.
one of the best albums put out.
Yeah.
That was, I think, a pinnacle.
Mm-hmm.
The DC Talk was great. So for influential Christian artists, I don't think you can get bigger than DC Talk
No.
in the 90s.
So definitely be DC Talk.
Mhm.
I think we agree on that one.
Yep, absolutely.
I think I would put Carmen. Carmen.
What?
Carmen as my number two.
Carmen got the. Wow.
I think you have to. If you're talking about influential,
Influential Carmen is.
it was
Wow.
it was cheesy music, but it was a free show.
Wow, that is awesome. Carmen made it.
Yeah. Were you going to put him on there?
Not at all. No.
So then I think Audio Adrenaline
Okay.
goes on there.
Yeah, I get audio.
And then I think this is going to be weird compared with Carmen, but I think Project 86.
Hmm.
They are what introduced me to like actual like Christian metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah. So just for that,
What sleepers on your list?
I thought about what are you going to do a list?
Yeah.
All right.
I've
Well,
got-
I'll
I've
wait.
got a list. It's much different.
Much different. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Wild stuff. So yeah, DC Talk makes it for
Mhm.
sure. I was gonna say, and maybe I'm wrong in this, for crossover power, Jars of Clay.
Jars of Clay. Yeah.
Yeah, because they had crossover hits on mainstream radio.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I was gonna say for crossover power, and because they started way earlier than people know, was Skillet.
Oh yeah.
Skillet was '90s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they put out
The-
the album with the Skillet on it.
Blonde Skillet.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it John Cooper, right? John.
Yeah, John Cooper.
He was blonde.
No beard, blonde
Mhm.
hair. Yeah.
No tattoos.
No tats.
None of those big. He had these big gun-looking things that shot out like smoke and stuff when they played it louder than life. You know,
Right.
None of that stuff.
So, I mean, those are my three. And I was going to put POD on there.
POD.
Because, again, not just because they're a Christian band who were able to reach a broader audience and
Yeah.
bring, I feel like, a great message of gospel to a bigger crowd.
Yeah, and I would have put those POD on my list. Project 86 helped me discover
POD.
POD.
Right.
So-
I think you, I don't know if you, maybe you turned me on to POD or is the other, I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure it was Project 86 for me. The Drawing Black Lines
Drawing Black Lines,
album.
yeah.
I think I found it like Walmart or something.
I can't remember where I got POD.
Yeah. So yeah, POD may have been you,
Yeah, I might have known that. I don't remember.
but another one that's, if I could get like would be Petra.
I was going to say, Petra gets honorable mention.
Overstriper. for me.
Over Striper.
Mhm.
Yes. Really, I was aware of Striper, like early on.
And I love some Striper songs.
Yeah. But I didn't care about them as much as, I thought Petra was better.
And Carmen worked with DC Talk and Petra.
But I actually liked Holy Soldier better than Petra and,
I forgot about them.
but they weren't as well known.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they get the big four nod.
Yeah, probably not. But no, like I said, not for me because that was probably my big Christian. That was my mom's attempt to get me to stop listening to Kiss. Was DC Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a really weird, and I guess maybe you did too. But like, I think the reason I like so many different, genres of music and different types of music is because, like I said, when I was with my dad, it was country and AC/DC. My mom listened to any contemporary '90s Christian person you could think of.
I could see her as Stephen Curtis Chapman.
Yeah, Stephen
Oh, yeah.
Curtis Chapman,
Yeah.
Sandy Patty,
Michael
for,
W. Smith
for him.
for him.
Yeah, Michael W. Smith definitely.
Yeah.
And then my uncle.
Bones.
That's my cousin.
Oh,
My uncle Tim.
yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
He had probably the greatest collection of music I've ever seen in my life. And it was all alphabetized on a shelf. So you could just go AC/DC, ZZ Top, everything in between. So all the metal, rock, hair metal, any of that stuff came from him.
Yeah.
And then, yes, my cousin, who we nicknamed Bones, he listened to a lot of the newer rock, but also like Elvis and the Beatles and just rap and even rap music. Like a lot of the rap music I listen to is because he would, listen to this, listen to this.
Right.
And my Uncle Tim is actually the person that turned me on to Metallica, because once again, they're going to get brought up again, is in middle school I had the Kiss Army t-shirt, thought Kiss was the greatest band in the world, and would not be convinced otherwise. And I made a comment to him one time. We were talking. He liked Kiss also. That's where I discovered him. But I was like, they're like the heaviest band ever. And he's like, no. He's like, not even close. I was like, well, who's heavier than Kiss? Who could possibly be heavier than Kiss? He gave me the Injustice for All cassette tape, and Blackened not only changed my life, but also is the reason I wanted to play drums.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank God for that day.
All those emotions happened in that intro.
What a fateful day.
As soon as that intro after the intro and the music kicks in, I was like, these guys are awesome, and I want to know how to do that on drums.
Yeah. I'll tell you, people they will look down on my intro to Metallica. Because I have two. One was, it wasn't until the Black Album.
Yeah.
With Nothing Else Matters that I heard Metallica for the first time. And I think maybe I did hear one before that, but it didn't make an impact on me.
Mm-hmm.
But my brother Jesse played guitar. And so a lot of my musical influences I had an uncle too that had everything.
Yeah.
From Bing Crosby to Bill Cosby, he had everything. But my brothers were big influences on me and what I listened to. And two real quick stories was my brother Jesse played guitar. And so he was teaching me Bon Jovi stuff. But then he started playing this song called Mama Said.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out it was from Metallica's new album. And so I went out and bought it. It was called Load. And so don't come at me, but Load was like the first Metallica album that I owned.
Same.
And then Black Album was next.
Yeah.
And so I will always have a soft spot in my heart for that album. I think it's their best album. So that's just me.
You've insulted Slayer, and said Load's the best Metallica album.
Yep.
We may be canceled.
And have always loved Creed.
Yep. I'm with you on that though.
Yeah. But then the other thing that happened was my brother Chuck had a cassette with this band called White Zombie. And it was like a bootleg. Nobody had ever really heard of this band before. And I heard that White Zombie cassette and I was like into harder music from then on out.
Yeah.
It ruined me. So it had bootlegs from White Zombie, but at the end of it, somebody had recorded Black Hole Sun from Soundgarden on there. And so I was hooked on Chris Cornell's voice from then on out. So that would, as far as grunge bands go, Chris Cornell is the singer from all the grunge bands for me. But I'm an Alice in Chains band guy.
Who would you take out of that? Because the big four for grunge, you got Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and really Stone Temple Pilots are probably the big.
Yeah.
Unless I missed one, but those are probably the big guys, and that's five. So who?
That's five. So you've got, what do you say? Nirvana,
Nirvana,
Stone Temple Pilots,
Alice in Chains,
Alice in Chains,
and Soundgarden.
I would take out Nirvana. But I mean, they deserve to be there because they're Nirvana.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand their impact on the culture.
Yeah.
As far as
they ushered in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But as far as personal influence, me personally, they weren't my favorite of those five.
Yeah. I'd probably take Pearl Jam out.
Yeah, I like Pearl Jam. I think Pearl Jam had a bigger lasting influence.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I won't argue with that. There's just, for me,
Eddie's still alive.
Yeah, and I love Pearl Jam.
Good for you, Eddie.
Yeah.
Keep kicking, man. Don't die.
Stay alive.
Stay alive. Stay off heroin. But Soundgarden,
as far as vocals go, Chris Cornell cannot be beat in all the '90s,
Mm-hmm.
in all the 2000s. He can't be beat. He's the greatest rock singer, I feel like, of all time. Now, Queen fans will come at me and all those guys, but he's the
Yeah.
greatest. And Eddie's still alive, so Eddie stays in there. Pearl Jam stays for me.
For you.
And Alice in Chains is my favorite, but I get Nirvana because they had the biggest cultural impact
Mm-hmm.
of the '90s by far. So who would that leave out for me then? 'Cause so that's for me. Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. Alice
You
in
would have,
Chains.
yeah, Stone Temple Pilots would be your big.
Stone Temple Pilots would be out.
Oh, you take them out too?
I would take them.
So you have to add one.
No, I'd keep Nirvana in over Stone Temple Pilots.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Actually, here's another hot take. I think Smashing Pumpkins deserves to be in there besides Stone Temple Pilots. And I like Stone Temple Pilots. But I think Smashing Pumpkins are more cultural.
Mm-hmm. For the grunge
For the
too?
grunge era, yeah.
I guess I never thought of them as grunge.
Really?
No, never.
What about Screaming Trees? They just didn't have the
Yeah.
fan base to be with those other
I mean, you had some good grunge like jam bands like that. You know that were good. But I'm just talking like those are the big ones.
Yep. Yep. So what about worship bands?
Worship,
Worship music.
that's difficult for me.
Yeah. You can't pick four of the big ones?
I mean, I could pick four of the big ones. I don't know if they'd make my list.
Yeah.
Can I do Crowder and then David Crowder Band?
You could. Yeah.
Um,
See, I'd have Third Day on there.
Yeah, I think Third Day, and I think Jake Hamilton.
Jake Hamilton, yeah.
I like that he's a little heavier and stuff. But yeah, is
Jeremy Camp.
Jeremy Camp? Oh yeah, Jeremy Camp. Once again though, I guess he is a worship
Yeah.
artist.
I like his worship stuff, so.
Yeah, his
But I was
shit-
thinking so here would be my big four for worship. I'm gonna lay it out there. Third Day, Michael W. Smith,
Mhm.
Rich Mullins.
Oh, Rich Mullins be on my list. Sorry,
Yeah.
I totally spaced on that.
Yeah.
I'll take it back.
Yeah.
I'll take one of my Crowder bands out.
Rich Mullins. But then Crowder has to go in there for me.
Yeah, though
Chris Palmer
Crowder,
doesn't make the cut.
Crowder or David Crowder Band.
David Crowder Band. For me.
So, I think so too. I think it'd be David Crowder Band. Yeah, and I can't believe I forgot about Rich Mullins.
Yeah. Rich
That's
is the
a
king.
shame on me.
Yeah, he's the number one.
Yeah, he definitely. It's probably him, Third Day, then maybe David Crowder.
Yeah. And so the reason I like the worship stuff is because that when it's good,
Mm-hmm.
you're at the throne room of God. You know, when it's right, you're in the presence of God. When it's not, and it's commercial, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts so bad. But yeah, so that's it for me on that. So and also, if you go back to influential Christian bands, when Skillet started to peak,
Mm-hmm. Comatose.
Yeah. we opened for them in the Field and Peak, and I just have to throw this out there. I gotta talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had their first album for John to sign, and he was like, we've made albums since this, right? And I was like, yeah, but I wanted to show you I've been a fan since this first Sucky album. Now that you're great, and all these other people are your fans.
Now you're going after Skillet.
Yeah. So now, completely different when we met the guys from POD
Mm-hmm.
and weren't a band on the roster that day, which wasn't a big deal either because my mom's gospel band also opened for Skillet that day. But
Yeah.
they were a quartet. So, but so what I was going to say was that when we met POD, they were in their. We were at Festival in the Field.
Waterfront. It was a
Waterfront, yeah.
LRS Fest.
I guess so, yeah. And they were already, their show was over. They already went back to their bus. And we chanted at the fence so long that they just came out and signed our shirts and signed and talked to us for a while, shook our hands. They were really cool. Talked to us for a long time. It was great. Then we were playing this show with Skillet, and the band wouldn't even come out and talk to us at first. So
Yeah.
we finally got to talk to him. It was like after a long time. And then he told me they got new albums out.
They've done other stuff.
He signed it and went on, you know. I'm like, all right. But I still like Skillet. I still like each other. Yeah. That's the way it went.
Try to be the cool kid.
Yeah. But I think that's all I've got, man.
That's all I've got too. Like I said,
Happy birthday.
I know that's funny. I don't know what I'm gonna do with all the fan mail I'm gonna get when people know that, you know, I was a legit custodian for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, didn't make it as a drummer, but
No,
you can wax the floor.
strip and re-wax the floor. Yep.
Just
Peace.